Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, TechGig has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give a quick insight of various domains. Today's session is fourth in the database development series, and topic for today's webinar is critical database migration. We are delighted to have Mr. Om Prakash Lalchandani, Senior Project Manager at Emphasis with us today. Om Prakash is a certified DBA and Linux Unix administrator with 22 years cross-platform experience as core Oracle, DBA, developer, architect, Sys-based DBA and SQL DBA expert. He has worked as Senior DBA Project Manager, Senior Consultant for a top international bank, SSI and MNCs. He worked on several migration projects for critical database requiring 24/7 support. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for next 45 minutes and we will take your questions after the presentation. In the meanwhile, you can post your queries through the chat pane available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce you to our guest speaker, Mr. Om Prakash.
Mr. Lalchandani, please open the PPT.
Yes. Okay. So am I visible and audible to everyone, I believe?
Yeah, you're audible and your screen is also visible. Thank you.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Om Prakash, and today we will discuss about the critical database migrations. The agenda for today's webinar would be as follows. There will be an introduction to critical database migration, then how we can achieve the critical database migration, we'll then discuss about understanding the customer requirements, their environment, and setting the right expectations. Then we'll understand a few real-time examples on critical database migration. There are a few migrations which will be like out of scope of this session. So we'll also discuss about those migrations which I won't be discussing in this webinar. And I would like to schedule the QA session at the end so that I'm able to complete the session in stipulated 45 minutes, and then we'll proceed to the QA session. Into the database migration and the definition. Some would be really aware that what database migration means, which is nothing else but migrating or moving or putting databases from, say, one OS to other. This may also involve physical relocation of database files from the source to target location. Of course, this can also involve moving to far-off sites or maybe the distant locations, even distant geographical locations. And it may also mean moving data from one DBMS system to other. For instance, from Sybase database to Oracle database, Now, DBMS is nothing but your database management system like Oracle, SQL Server, or Sybase. And database itself means the underlying data files which act as its repository to the data. So DB migration in a simplest form can also mean just moving to a different set of hardware, and other stuff like DBMS or the version, OS version could be the same. So this also falls under the category of DB migration. Moving to the next slide. Now, why at all a customer or company would really need migration, or what is the real basis for all this? Now, a company typically has felt business need to carry out DB migration, for instance, for say business integration or moving to the centralized operations. So here company wants to integrate its isolated or distributed data, which may be running in different departments in an isolated fashion, and company wants to integrate all the distributed database into one centralized database. So this involves a lot of database migration. Or your customer's data has grown exponentially, and existing DB version can no longer support the mere volume of the transaction. So there can be some, say, limitations to the DBMS version, which cannot really withstand the number of transactions increasing day by day. So the company decides to move on to a better DBMS system or a better platform. Another reason would be that company is still running on age-old systems which are fault-prone and difficult as well as costly to support. The hardware itself became obsolete, or the DBMS or application software is de-supported by the vendor. The company cannot run its business without actually now migrating to the new system. The reason is simply if there is any fault, getting support is really very, very difficult, and also it's sometimes very costly. Now, there have been cases where your customer is actually paying a huge amount to support the systems due to costly support operations. Company finds an alternative solution to run its operation on a different, say, technological base or technical platform, and reduce its cost of operations to say 50%. So here they have a very strong business case to migrate to the alternative solutions. Now, just to remind you that at the moment we are talking about the need of database migrations. So like some companies grow their business and add to the functionality. This may be due to say horizontal or maybe vertical integration of the company. So they keep on increasing the functionality. Now, to support the operations, they plan to buy a new software, new application software solution, which may be based on a different DBMS version. Here again, the company needs to port its existing database to the new system. So this was related with the need of real need of database migration. Moving on to the next slide. Now, what exactly is critical database migration, or what does the term critical database migration means? See, in this webinar, we are focusing on the companies or the solutions where the companies or the vendors having 24/7 by 365 support environment. Sometimes the global presence of the company and the nature of its business is such that the transactions are happening all the times and all the days. So what happens that the company has grown immensely, and now they cannot shut down their systems even for a couple of hours. Now, some companies may be having operations globally, so they are expecting the transactions every time. So shutting down or having a downtime of a few hours, it cannot be afforded by the company. So there could be a need for database migration for such companies, and they go forward and talk to their technical team. Now, if a DB or a technical team ask for a few hours downtime to support their migration, definitely it's not going to be acceptable to the business. What is the reason is that this actually transforms into a huge loss of, say, maybe a few $100,000 or even more. So they really cannot afford this big downtime. But maybe a few minutes, just say maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes downtime, maybe it's okay for the company, but not a few hours. And if the technical team asks for a few days downtime, then they will say that it's really ridiculous and they will just won't allow for the migration for the time being. Now for companies, sometimes it's not just a loss in terms of money or dollars, as we discussed that okay, the company has really grown their business and if 1 hour downtime means a few $100,000. But sometimes this may not be the actual reason for critical database migration. For some business, it can also mean the loss of reputation. When there are examples when a business having 6 to 8 hours or 10 hours downtime resulted in the permanent loss of their clients. Now, we all might have experienced or we all might have seen at one point or other that we go to an e-com site and then we are in the middle of some transaction, or when another day we go to the e-com site and we're trying to do the transaction and it says that okay, the site is down for some maintenance. Then after 2 hours we again try and log in and again we get the same thing. Now our transaction cannot happen, so what we do is basically we try and find out alternative to whatever solution or whatever service we are looking at, and we have some sort of a different opinion about that company or that e-com site, that okay, why this company is having a lot of downtime. So I'm sure, I think all of us, we have noticed at some time or other about this. So that is something which is called the reputational risk, which the company is maybe having for a couple of hours or even for a few days or multiple downtimes. Then we have certain mission critical applications. Companies are running some mission critical applications. You just cannot afford to have a downtime. Here, there's no question about the loss of money or loss of reputation or something. Mission critical applications are the applications which should be up and running at all costs, and these are like for instance maybe flight planning or say some trading systems. These are like can be categorized as mission critical applications. So the vendor or let's say the company cannot just afford a downtime even for minutes for such critical systems. Even some hospital systems are included in that, and the patient comes and data is not available, or we have a railway reservation system or a flight, international flight reservation system. Passengers want to onboard and the site is down. Even for 15 minutes, it is actually not acceptable. So there has to be a way whereby the application is able to retrieve data or commit transaction at all times. If it doesn't happen, then it actually is a great operational risk, I would say. And these systems I would regard as very, very critical systems. And again, we are talking about database migration, so maybe for these critical applications, the need is to migrate the database because maybe the existing application is slow, or maybe the transactions are really getting very high and they really want to go to a different database management system or different version of a platform or different OS. So they have a need to migrate, but they would be thinking about the right solution. Otherwise, they will keep on postponing, and anyways, the business or the operation gets still affected if they do not migrate. So this is what is actually critical database migration and major topic of this webinar. Now, how we can actually achieve this critical database migration? I will be really discussing a few solutions which are available for achieving the critical database migration. One solution would be like to configure a standby database for the production server. So while we work on standby database, the normal operations work on production systems, and when there is an actual cutover or the actual migration, it is done in a very seamless manner. So I'm just enumerating the different solutions which are available, and later in the webinar session I'll be discussing more in detail about all these solutions. Now, other very good solution is offered by Oracle GoldenGate, whereby we can achieve a DB migration. So it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of platform independence. So next time when you want to migrate your database from, let's say, Sybase to Oracle, you may as well utilize GoldenGate technology. So it's just not limited to Oracle GoldenGate. Means just not limited to the Oracle DBMS. This GoldenGate provides you with a guaranteed data capture, routing transformation, and delivery across heterogeneous business systems. Again, in GoldenGate, you will get a data precision and committed transaction availability, which is of prime importance on the success of DB migration, and very more so on critical database migration. For instance, a transaction is saved, and when your data is finally migrated and is cut over to the new system, and saved transaction is not available, the business or your vendor or your stakeholder will actually not accept it. So data precision and committed transaction availability is of prime importance for any data success for critical database migration. Now, if technical team needs to worry about only the Oracle to Oracle migration, then we have another solution available which chiefly utilizes streams technology. I will elaborate more on this as we progress with this presentation. Moving on to the next slide. Here we are talking about a solution where we use the standby database. So let's take up this example which chiefly utilizes standby database configuration, and let us discuss about one scenario where your database which runs in a 2K block size, and the platform on which it runs is a 8K block size. Now, the customer realized that there is a fair amount of slowness because there's a lot of transactions being saved every minute, maybe thousands of transactions, and it's a say OLTP system, and saving time is really very high. And when they give it to the database team or the technical team for analysis, they found out that there is a big IO hotspot, and it really results in the slowness or the performance hit. So what the technical team really analyzed is that they wanted to move the 2K block size database into an 8K block size database. They want to change the block size so that it matches with the OS block size. But with some analysis, the technical team goes and asks for a 4 days downtime as the DB runs into terabytes. Now, when the business comes to know, or like your customer comes to know that you want a 4 days downtime, they will say that it's really ridiculous. They can't even go for downtime of 1 hour. So how can they give a downtime for 4 days? And when they ask the reason, the DBA says that he wants to do some export and import of the database, and it will take 4 days time to export and another, say, 2 days or 3 days time to import. So that he asked for this time. So what the company will say is that, okay, hold on to this migration. Let's continue with this operations, whether it's slow or not. But anyway, they found that it's affecting the operations. So the business tells them that, okay, why don't you find out another alternate solution? Now, there really is an alternate solution available. What the team proposes is that they will configure a standby database for the production system. They will initially convert this to a logical standby database, and it might require a few minutes of downtime while configuring. And then once logical standby database is configured, what they do is that they take an export of a logical standby database, and then they convert this database into 8K block size. They reopen this database, standby database, and then they sync up with this database with the production system. And once it is synced up, and when they have tested that both the databases are running in sync, they will merely run a switchover. And typically a switchover can happen in a couple of minutes. So once the switchover happens, so you have a new environment and all data migrated into a 8K block size, and with only a few minutes data time. So this is not a magic, but it's a well-planned DB migration. So now going to the next slide. This is something about detail of using GOLDENGATE again. So as I promised that we will discuss on detail about all the solutions which are available to perform a critical database migration. And just to remind you that critical database migration is something like we cannot afford to down the system even for say 1 hour or half an hour. And critical, why it's critical, the systems are very critical and they cannot afford a huge downtime. Now one solution, as I said, that it is available with Oracle's GOLDENGATE. And this GOLDENGATE technology offers you a data capture, routing, transformation, and delivery across heterogeneous environments. So like previous solution which I discussed was for Oracle. Now this solution can offer you a solution for migrating different versions of databases. I would say that if it is ODBC compliant database, this can be really migrated. So GOLDENGATE will require some sort of a technical expertise in installations, configuration, and maintenance. Now it's gaining popularity as a robust, tested, and guaranteed replication, upgrade, and migration solution. So it looks like that GOLDENGATE is some technology which is here to stay, and moreover you can achieve a truly cross-platform replication on some certified platforms. Now one thing which we should bear in mind is that it involves some licensing cost, and of course it requires a considerable technical expertise for setting up such a configuration. Let's move to the next slide. Again, discussing more on GOLDENGATE. So this solution offers you a solution for real-time data capture, transformation, and delivery to heterogeneous environments. So this is one that is real-time data capture, which is very critical for the success of critical database migration. So this eliminates or brings a near zero downtime. It is also referred to as transactional data management. Transactional data management. Now, as we are already aware now, that crucial point in critical DB migration is to bring the servers into sync by the way of online replication. So this is the crux for critical database migration, and TDM or transactional data management helps you to achieve this. So another aspect which is of foremost importance, without which the DB migration can actually fail, is the data accuracy and precision. Especially for cross-platform migration, the data which is ported must preserve the data types, must be accurate, precise, and also preserves the transactional integrity. So I hope some people will be able to understand what actually is data accuracy and precision, especially in the cross-platform migration when you have different data types. For instance, you are migrating from say Ingress to Oracle. So definitely there will be changes in the data types, the way the data is represented. And once your migration is complete and when you found that the data is somewhat coming in a different format or some garbage characters are coming for a table, it really means that your data migration will not be accepted and you have to really fail over to the original system. So GoldenGate is one technology which offers you the data precision and transactional integrity. Transactional integrity is something like when transaction or when data is saved, it is actually available for retrieval. If data is saved and it is not retrievable, then again it results in a very big problem. However, there will always be a chance that the quoted data is not precise due to some unforeseen reasons, or there some error can pop up, or application testing itself can fail on the migrated data. So this fact should be always bear into the mind, and one must be ready with the fallback option. So once the database is migrated and in the project plan, when there's go no go decision, and if the customer or your stakeholder decides to abandon the migration, then the team must be able to fail over to the original production system with a minimal change or with a minimal transit time. So this is also one important aspect of critical database migration, that rollback plan should also be in the place, and some time taken for the rollback must also, some estimate must also be given to your customer. However, if all the proper planning is done and if all you take due care and complete testing and meticulous technical project plan is made available and work goes on accordingly, you can really minimize your fallback. And moreover, GoldenGate has also matured with proven production database migrations with low downtime. We have already discussed about what exactly is transactional data management, or TDM. So it's just like minimal impact and high availability to mission critical application, transactional solution for eliminating database downtime, proved capabilities for data integrity, and so on. And you also have a fallback solution. Now there are certain proven systems which have used GoldenGate for the production database migrations. So let's come on to the next slide and see that GoldenGate major customer examples. Now this I have adapted from one of the Oracle sites, where they say that these particular migrations have been successfully carried out, and these are typically the database versions, or you can see the platforms or different OSs, or you can also see the different companies which actually carried out the critical database migration with low downtime. First example is like from Oracle 9i Unix to Oracle 10G IX, then 9i on HP 264 Unix to 9i on HP Unix. Then another company goes from Open VMS system to HP Unix and Oracle 10G version. Then some other examples by different companies. Civil, for instance, goes from IBM DB2 to Oracle. We have example for Dell, AMD. So these are the certified solutions, or I would say the certified platforms which utilize GoldenGate for the migrations. Move on to the next slide. Now, one very, very important aspect is that setting the right customer expectations. This is a very important aspect for the whole exercise. And this will really avoid any serious misunderstanding in terms of either downtime or number of downtimes required, and so on and so forth. So technical team needs to plan out the whole exercise and must provide an advanced walkthrough and necessary approvals to go ahead with the project plan. So one must first understand the exact requirements of the customer in terms of the solution required, actual permissible downtime, and budgetary considerations. So some of the points we have already discussed previously. And with this data, one should prepare a detailed and technical project plan. This needs an extensive testing to be carried out. Understanding the nature of the data, data types, endian formats, choosing the best solution available, budgetary considerations, extra licenses which are required. And one very important thing is that whether the availability of the trained professionals is there or not. You might need an expert in GOLDENGATE or an expert on streams technology. Then actual project work starts well before the cutover date. So it's just not like that at a particular date you want to go for a migration and everything is done on the spot. It's just not like that. And this is a crux of critical DB migration. It involves all the setup, configuration, testing, synchronizations, etc. well before the cutover date. So once the things are ready, well set up, tested, and actual cutover starts and gets completed in a few minutes time. So even then there can be a chances of, as I already discussed, that some chances of unforeseen errors, bugs may pop up, or some certain tests may fail. So this needs to be explained to the plan well before you start the migration. And what would be your failover plan and how much time this failover will actually take. So this was about the setting of customer expectations. Moving on to the next slide. So now we have already discussed about GOLDENGATE solution, and we also discussed about moving to a logical or physical standby database solution where you can achieve a critical database migration. Now here there is yet another example where you can have a near zero downtime. So I'm discussing a few real-time solutions so that whichever solution is really workable, that could be selected and that can be really utilized. It also depends on the technical expertise, whether you have a GOLDENGATE expert available or not. So these are all considerations which are there. Now this particular solution only discusses about from Oracle to Oracle migration, whereas GOLDENGATE you can have a cross-platform migration, but this is for Oracle to Oracle migration only. And this is really very exciting solution available, as you can see. This solution, as one can see, also refers a platform extensive testing, whereby reducing the chances of failover. So this solution provides you a platform where one can do extensive testing, and it will really minimize the chance to failover. So I'll walk you through with this solution which is available and which actually worked for few of the customers, for the few of the companies, sorry. So here we start basically by building up a standby database. Then data porting can be done by either any ways, like you can utilize RMAN, for instance, and there's a convert option in RMAN. So if there's a change, for instance, if your new platform supports a little endian format and the source platform supports a bigger endian, then you can use an RMAN convert option to convert the data. Now if the expertise is available, you can as well use the streams replication, or you can even utilize the GOLDENGATE replication. So with the proper and planned setup and configuring flashback on the target database, application testing can be started. So now this is something which is very important here, is that utilizing the flashback technology, where all the dummy transactions can be added and the target can be subjected to a well-established test as per the professional test plans. So once the testing is through, we can flash back to the point where we started the testing. So after the DBs are in sync, we can go for the cutover. So we can actually anticipate that the chance of failback to the source will be really minimized. Moving on to the next slide. Discussing something more on flashback streams and arm and convert. Now to summarize the above solution, we saw that how important flashback technology is, which facilitates this testing. Flashback really allows you to have n number of tests. So professional testers can advise to go for all sorts of unit, system or integration testing, which will cover all the testing comprehensively. They may come in with a test plan with the dummy data, which actually represents actual data, and that actually data can be actually committed to the database. So applications are tested in this fashion, and once the part of testing is complete, DBA can help the testers to flash back to a point in time. So why a point in time? That maybe the tester wants to test some more transaction or some different type of transactions. So they can really go to some certain point and then do all sorts of testings. So not only the data testing, another important aspect of testing which minimizes the unforeseen errors is the data center infrastructure testing. So previously, just we discussed about the data testing. Another important aspect is data center infrastructure itself testing. So it actually tests the other components of servers like LPAR, network bandwidth, is there any single point of failure in the whole data center, any possible hardware failure which can occur while they are doing some sort of a load testing, and so on. So it allows you to do all sort of testing. So while I was talking about some unforeseen error, and if you have not tested your infrastructure and some infrastructure fails, then the whole migration also tends to fail. This was about the testing. Then we also talked about the arm and convert capabilities. So this arm and can be utilized for a speedy porting of your data to the target and gives much flexibility to convert the data to the target formats. So as we already discussed about changing to the different endian format is possible with the arm. So here we discussed more on the flashback streams, arm and convert, which can be utilized for actual database migration. Now, moving on to the next slide, which talks about some assumptions and limitations with this type of solution. So here I just wanted to stress very crucial points in the whole exercise. So I really apologize if I have to repeat something, but it is just to give due emphasis on those critical things as well. So I think I have already highlighted that source and target need to run in sync for a while. So we must be ready with the expertise to understand or handle the state of our technologies which achieve this synchronization. And we must also be able to take the cognizance of this fact that considerable expertise will be really required to handle such operations. So a person with a lot of experience in GOLDENGATE and streams or flashback technology needs to be utilized, or otherwise you can have a lot of testing, setting up the environments well before the actual cutover, and this can be actually included in your technical project plan for whole database migration. And most important aspect here is that we are handling the data, and nothing really should go wrong here. And as an additional precaution, I suggest that we should have proper backups which should be handy at every stage. So at every stage, if you want to roll back, you have a backup handy, so that at least you can go to the previous point. And last and not the least, one must be aware of the extra licensing cost which would be required. So possibly some sites or technology vendors or distributors can give you a fair idea of licensing cost involved, and you may not even go for some listed prices. One may even go for talk to the actual distributors and find out what the costs are, and you never know, we can have some discounts or like that. So what I wanted to say is that GOLDENGATE or some of the technologies which I have discussed, it comes with an extra cost or extra license option. This should be well included in your budgetary estimations. So these were some assumptions which I discussed, and some of the limitations in this. Now, what is the way forward? We have already discussed about the state-of-the-art technology, or the current technology which is available. So in this previous slide, we saw that we must carefully understand the customer requirements and set the expectations rightly. I think the slide is fourth or fifth slide. So there we also discussed what we should also check: nature of the customer data and the data type. If the customer is having, for instance, B files or external tables, this is something which will not be supported by the application. So be careful of such type of data types. So even GOLDENGATE will not be able to support B files if your database is having, or maybe the external tables. And then there is a notorious long data type. So it's always advisable to convert such data types, or you will face some problems in the migration. In some solutions, replication on the objects under Oracle default users will also not be supported. For instance, we have a limitation in GOLDENGATE that if your detail runs in one of the Oracle default users, so that detail will not be propagated by GOLDENGATE, I believe. So even the current version will not give you this facility. And some solutions are available only for the specific databases. So we need to be careful about the choice of solution. Then what migrations are really out of scope of this presentation is like very old legacy databases. For instance, if the business is running maybe in a very old Ingress or COBOL, or maybe an older version of Informix, so existing technology may not allow you to sync up the databases with your additional server. So it will require a larger downtime. But however, some future enhancements may possibly cover such limitations as well. So this was all about the critical database migration. And now I'd like to move to the question and answer session. And thanks a lot, all of you. So with permission, I can really move to the QA session now.
The questions are already
one
shared
question
with
that how can database migration can be done in healthcare industry? So now I would like you to come to the first point of critical database migrations, which we have already discussed, is that one really needs to understand the nature of your database, and then how much downtime is really required. How much downtime can your customer allow you, and then you have to really select the particular database migration solution. So you need to start with setting up right expectations to the customer, select the right solution, and if your question is just that the database, how can database can be done in healthcare industry, my answer is that you can use either of the solution, and what database the healthcare industry is running, whether they are running on Oracle or EBT, or and what platform, and what is the actual need of migrating also needs to be considered. Sometimes your database is running slow, so that may not be the real reason for migrating. You may as well tune your database. So we really need to understand that what is the actual need of a database migration, and whether it comes into the category of critical database migration or not. If yes, then go for a right solution. Okay. Seems to be slow. Now there is another question by Mohit, that why do we need to migrate to higher block size, that is from 2K to 8K, in order to increase the I/O on the server? Well, we have already discussed about why really we needed to migrate from 2K to 8K. It is actually a real scenario which I discussed about, and the solution which was provided. Because of the OLTP sort of a database, the customer was really getting slowness or performance hit because of the 2K, and the real reason was there was a I/O hit because of 8K platform block size. So the best solution which was available for this sort of correctness is that then there was a need to convert the 2K block size to 8K block size, and I hope I had already discussed in details. Now another question would be, is that don't you think it is time consuming to create a database for different version as data type is changed? No, my object is not really to change the data type or something. Here the principal object is critical database migrations, for which there is already a requirement which has already been analyzed by the technical team and the stakeholders, everybody. So transforming your data type is one of the next stage, or something which you need to really figure it out when you do the critical database migration. And of course, if I'm not able to clarify your question, you can always come back with your question again through your moderator, and that question can be forwarded to me at any time. Does GoldenGate work for non-Oracle to non-Oracle migrations? I would say, why not? It will really work for non-Oracle to non-Oracle migration. Another question is, this webinar is only based on GoldenGate solution or also cover solution? Now, if somebody was attentive in the webinar, I discussed about 3 more solutions apart from the GoldenGate. But don't you think it is time consuming to create a database for different version of data type? It seems that this question has been repeated by Deepak. if GoldenGate do not support B file or external tables, then what are the other options to support these files? I think I need to clarify more on what is B file and external tables, and maybe if we can rephrase this question, what are the other options to support these files? I mean, we are not discussing the solution for converting the data types. We are discussing the solution only for database migrations. So now, if your database is having a lot of B files and external tables, you can have you need to first convert these B files to some other format, or you can actually migrate the database and then add the B files later on. That could be one solution. But as of now, I really do not believe that GoldenGate, or maybe some new development will be coming up for replicating this, but as of now, I really don't think that B file or external tables are being supported. However, you can have a more detailed understanding of the nature of the business and offer another solution. Next question is that, will there be any transactional losses in the standby approach? How is it different from SQL or message queue replication in DB2? Any limitations of using the GoldenGate? So the first question is that, will there be any transaction losses in the standby approach? The answer is no. From time to time, one can always check the sync between the standby and the primary database. And once the primary and standby are in sync, then we go for the switchover. And there are certain queries where you can run and see whether at this moment the switchover is possible or not. And once your database replies that, okay, now you can go for the switchover, time you can switch over, and I can guarantee that there won't be any transactional losses. So DB2 is having message queue, and all different databases having some or other different solutions, but the object is to migrate the database so that the downtime is very low, and we really have to identify the particular solution to reduce the downtime and give a precise data conversion or migration. And any limitations to use the GoldenGate, and in the last slide we have already discussed some of the limitations. Somebody is asking about the SQL Server, how to achieve a low downtime. So SQL Server is also having similar solutions. So I just represented Oracle solutions more, and also I also discussed about the cross-platform solutions. So we can either use a cross-platform solution or one of the solutions available for the SQL Server. And I'm very sure that SQL Server 2008, you can achieve a very low downtime in migrating the database. How or what precautions to be taken when migrating DB that are distributed across regions like multiple sites? What about data replication in multiple sites? Okay, that's a very good question. So assuming that you might be having replication or you might be having rack instances, so you can as well go for GoldenGate technology, which allows you the rolling upgrades or the rolling migrations. So once you adopt this option, one or other instance will always be available, or one or the other database will always be available, and by carefully devising your replication, you can achieve to migrate all the databases if the requirement is such. Now here the question is that if Oracle doesn't support DDL, then what type of data language it supports? Well, I think Suresh Kumar needs to have some more understanding on what actually DDL is, or maybe he can rephrase this question and send it back to me. But what I said is that definitely DDL will be supported, but in some of the technologies, DDL replication for the Oracle predefined users may not be supported. But certainly DDL and all the things will be supported. So coming to next question is, okay, we just also have answered. Another question from Praveen Kumar is, can we use GoldenGate while we are migrating the RDBMS information to MySQL server? Yes, why? My answer is that why not? We can use it because anyway it's a cross-platform application solution. Is it a good choice to maintain database on cloud to overcome downtime issue? See, here again we are a little bit deviating from the main object of this webinar. This webinar discusses about the critical database migrations, and I'm really not discussing about different technologies available to reduce your downtime or improve your performance or 100% uptime. But anyway, you can send me this question. Maybe I'll work on it and send back a proper reply. When we are doing a flashback on primary DB, do we need to execute flashback? Sorry. When we are doing a flashback on primary DB, do we need to execute flashback related stuff on DR2, or is it handled automatically? This question has been asked by Vishal, and my answer to this question is that since we are testing, so naturally we are using the standby server or the replicated server. So I won't say that it is a DR, it is actually a database server which is a replicated database, and when we are doing the testing, we may or we may not stop the replication, do all the testing, and that is all only on the second copy of your server, not the main server. Any method for GoldenGate technique in SQL Server? This I have already answered. How to migrate COBOL DB to Oracle best possible way? Okay, this is not actually, this is something which is out of scope of this webinar, but anyway you can forward this question to me and I can provide you the answer. But what I can say right now is that certainly you can have your COBOL database migrated to Oracle, but you might need some some technology or some gateway if it is available. Maybe we can check from Oracle site if any gateway is available for COBOL, or maybe some routines need to be executed or written so that you can migrate. But there will be, what I can assure, that there is going to be some more downtime for such type of a migration. How to migrate Windows DB to Linux DB? This again is a very basic question, and we have already answered. And I would suggest Hari Prasad to go through this webinar session. Maybe if it is recorded, and really you will find the answer. Which is the best database currently? Again, this question doesn't pertain to my webinar, so I like to skip this question. Can we migrate SQL database to Oracle and vice versa? And are there any prerequisites? Again, yes, why not? You can definitely migrate SQL to Oracle and vice versa. And prerequisites is that you should have a proper expertise in doing that and a proper plan which you should make. So now, can we access the same DB in different OS platforms at the same time with the help of DB migration? Maybe I can repeat this question. Can we access the same DB in different OS platforms at the same time? Why not? Definitely you can access the same DB. You can have a cross-platform replication, and your application at the same time can access both the databases without any problem. So I think I have answered most of the questions. And I apologize if I was not able to answer any particular question, but you are always welcome to send the question to me probably through the moderator or somebody, and later on I can answer it. So with this, I would like to conclude this session. And sorry, there is one more question. Which tool to migrate stored procedures? There are many tools available to migrate the stored procedures, so that shouldn't be any problem. So I'd like to conclude the session with this, and thank you very much for everyone to attend the seminar and for your questions. And I would like to over this to the moderator.
Prakash, for your informative session on critical database migration. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank our participants for their support in making this webinar a huge success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Gentlemen, the next session in TechGig webinar series is happening today at 3 p.m. Today's session is fourth in the ERP Systems series. Topic for the webinar is Benefits and Drawbacks of Cutting-Edge ERP Options. We will be having Mr. Sriram Ramji, Software Development Manager at Value Technologies as our guest speaker. So see you all at 3 p.m. Thank you.